Assalamualaikum and hi. We are going to present about the country with the highest inflation rate, Turkey and Russia. So this is my group members. My name is Marina Nabila binti Zulkifli, Nur Ain Idina binti Ahmad Azhain, Nur Fadila binti Abdul Jalil, Izafika binti Munir, and one Nur Fazlin binti Awan Ahmad Fakaruddin.
Firstly is the definition of inflation. One of the most well-known concepts in economics is inflation. Countries have been thrown into extended periods of instability as a result to inflation. The rate at which the prices continue to increase over a predetermined amount of time, referred to as inflation. This means its ability to buy things decrease, which in turn causes the price to increase. The link between the size of economy and the amount of money in circulation is referred to as a quantity theory of money, and it is one of the oldest assumptions in the field of economy. Next, I will continue with the gains and losses of Turkey and Russia. From 21% to 36%, annual inflation surged in December. Turkey has faced rising inflation, decreasing currency value, and enormous debt. The lira has lost approximately 45% of its value. As a result, medicine, milk, and toilet papers have skyrocketed. Some petrol stations have closed due to stock shortage. Unemployment, exorbitant living costs, price spikes, and crushing debts have increased. Due to the currency sharp depreciation, import prices are also rising. According to the Brussels-based German Marshall Fund Senior Fellow Caritas 10, Turkey was considered an economic miracle during Mr. Erdogan's first decade in power. Foreign investor land, poverty was halved and millions more joined the middle class. Mr. Erdogan's incessant desire to grow, though, become an unturned way. High interest rates attract international investors to take the risk and continue financing, but also stifle the growth. Turkish banks sold the dollars to support the lira. The coronavirus outbreak global economic downturn has reduced Turkish export, escalating tensions. According to the most balanced predictions, GDP would fall 3 to 3.4% in 2022. Investment will fall 1%, and the real income will fall 2 to 2.5%. In June, Econ reported the lowest unemployment rate since 1992, 3.9%. Since then, emergency capital controls have helped the ruble gain over 25% this year, making it the world's best performing currency in 2022. This has controlled inflation and prevented panic buying after Western sanctions. In spring 2020, Russian Central Bank boosted interest rate sharply to fight inflation and save the currency. Mortgage financing dropped by 21% in amount and 36% in number of loans.
Next, data of inflation rate. For Turkey, the data demonstrates Turkey's average inflation rate from 2012 through 2020. Inflation in Turkey was 60.46% in 2020, even after the outbreak of COVID-19. For Russia, the statistics display Russian inflation rate from 2012 to 2020. Inflation rate in Russia was 21.32% in 2020, even though the COVID cases still fluctuated. Moving on to comparison between the inflation rate, Turkey's inflation rate does not exceed 100% when compared to Russia, but Turkey inflation rate increases every year. To compare an inflation rate in 2020, Turkey get 12.28% and make an increase of rate in 2021 to 19.6%. The latest inflation rate in Turkey in 2020 was 60.46%. This is because the price of all goods is going up. Purchasing goods imported from other countries costs more when the currency depreciates. Weaker currency translates to higher purchase since the majority of countries import like products like petroleum, mineral, and technology. Meanwhile, Russia's inflation rate has been insignificant when compared to Turkey's. Russia's inflation rate in 2020 and 2021 was 3.38 and 6.69% respectively. Even though the recent war between Turkey and Ukraine has become one of the major causes of inflation, the country is still able to find a solution to keep its economic position. Nonetheless, the inflation rate in Ukraine is expected to rise in 2020 as a result of several economic shocks linked to the hyperinflation. The disruptions of the supply chain has the potential of a wreak havoc on the country's inflationary record.
We're moving on to the factor of inflation rate occur in Turkey and Russia. Before I started with my point, do you know that Turkey had a previous record of high inflation in the second half of the 1950s? However, today the country itself grew much higher and persisted inflation that came from an unavoidable issue. In this situation, the major causes of inflation in Turkey has been determined by its government that struggled with massive debt and the currency drop since before the outbreak of COVID-19 and European war. Even the president is responsible for the country's economic decline of low interest rate, the poverty in Turkey happened to be increased. Then, we can see from the phenomenon of COVID-19 exacerbate Turkey's economic position due to disruption in the distribution chain. It means that activities that consist of import and export had been immediately stopped. In that so, Turkey is still reluctant to cover its economic crisis. We shall see another factor influencing the Turkish economy is the recent war between Russia and Ukraine. Turkey has becoming the significant economic links with both countries, and its economy is being impacted until there's a rise of controversial economic policies of Turkish government that have triggered the Turkish economy. But what about Russia? Russia faced inflation as a result of high ruble depreciation as a result of economic sanctions imposed on Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. This war is totally exacerbating the supply and demand imbalance, harming consumer sentiment and endangering global economic growth. Moreover, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has continued to disrupt the global supply chains. For example, the global prices for essential commodities such as fuel, food have been rising. Consequently, the poorest countries are most affected as they are already dealing with other issues such as climate changes.
So next, what the country do when inflation occur for the Turkey and Russia country. For the Turkey country, they are cutting interest rate, energy and food prices have risen sharply as a result of the conflict in Ukraine and supply limitation caused by the COVID. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of Turkey, took the unusual move of cutting interest rate in an effort to stimulate the economy. Next, the government offered energy bill subsidies to the poorer citizens. The government offered energy bill subsidies to the poorer citizens at a value of 12.2 billion in 2021. These subsidies were supplied to poorer citizens. The government also increased the minimum wage by 50% in December 2021 in order to assist residents who were having difficulty coping with the effects of rising inflation rate. So next is the Russia country. Russia's central bank mandated a significant hike in the country's interest rate. In the early spring of 2022, the Russia central bank mandated a significant hike in the country's interest rate in order to combat rising prices and stabilize the value of the currency. Russia country also lowering of interest rate and an increase in government spending are both measures that will boost the economy. After the West placed unprecedented sanction on Russia to punish President Vladimir Putin for sending tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine on February 24, Russia is now dealing with skyrocketing inflation, capital flight and the possibility of defaulting on its debt.
Alright, in this slide, I will be talking about the usage of overcoming policy for the next inflation of Turkey. So first is interest rate policy. It is predicted that the Central Bank of Turkey, CBRT, will continue to make use of interest rate as a weapon to control inflation. If inflation is high, the CBRT may decide to raise interest rate in order to minimize the amount of inflationary pressure and slow down economic expansion. Alright, second is fiscal policy. And this, the government may use fiscal policy to reduce inflation by regulating both government expenditure and revenues. For instance, if inflation is excessive, the government might cut spending in order to slow down productivity expansion and lower the amount of pressure being exerted on price. Alright, the third one is exchange rate policy. The CBRT also may utilize policy regarding currency rate as a tool for controlling inflation. For instance, if the Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey believes that the Turkish lira is excessive, it may engage in the foreign exchange market in order to devalue the lira. The last one is monetary policy. The Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey may also utilize monetary as a tactic to reduce inflation. Monetary policy is an approach for controlling inflation that involves the CBRT establishing a goal for the money supply and utilizing various tools of monetary policy in order to reach the target. Move to the next slide. In this slide, I will be talking about the usage of overcoming policy for the next inflation of Russia. So first is interest rate policy. The Central Bank of Russia will continue to use interest rate as a tool in its fight against inflation. If inflation is high, the CBR may decide to raise interest rate in order to slow down economic development and lower the amount of pressure on inflation. For the second one is fiscal policy. The government may use fiscal policy to reduce inflation by regulating both government expenditure and revenues. For instance, if inflation is excessive, the government might cut spending in order to slow down economic growth and lower the amount of pressure being exerted on prices. For the third one is exchange rate policy. The CBR is also able to utilize policy regarding currency rate as a tool to reduce inflation. The CBR believes that the ruble is overpriced. It may intervene in the foreign exchange market in order to weaken the ruble. This might assist in the reduction of inflation by making imported commodities more affordable. For the last one is monetary policy. As another potential method for bringing inflation under control, monetary policy is a strategy for controlling inflation that involves the CBR establishing a target for money supply and then using the tools of monetary policy to attain that aim.
We're almost to the end of our presentation. As we all know that Turkey and Russia are currently fighting for survival as hyperinflation continues to devastate the world in many ways. Nevertheless, I believe it is quite important to support and increase our international trade to around the world. Even we're facing numerous of challenges that can be avoided, or conversely, we're sure that both countries are able to create some new changes of recovery, even it might require cost and time.